I sold life insurance for years with New York Life. I was a New York Life agent. And their training in life insurance is probably one of the best of all in the industry. And in that, I stumbled on investments also, because the whole game at that point was drop term and invest the difference. Most people die uninsured and they invest in anything. But I started investigating these investments that people were saying, buy this term insurance and invest the difference in such as oil and gas, you name it. And I'm saying some of this stuff is wild, and some of this stuff is real. And I found that the gold and silver market, and I used to go to these conferences. Bob White, a guy named Bob White, used to run offshore conferences called the Duck Club. And I was the only black person on the dais at the Bob White Duck Club. And I learned a lot from the people at these various booths and all about gold and silver. And it stuck with me. And I be still doing it.
Do you have any comments on the technical side of the gold market? Anything that you've noticed about it over the last 25 years or so?
I can't really say, when you say technical side, you mean the profit and loss compared to other investments or whatever?
Sure, or its behavior even?
Well, it's, I'm not so much, I'm not that good on the technical side of it, because as my friend Joe Brennan said when I was seeking the presidential nomination for the Libertarian Party, a lot of the delegates at that convention would listen to me and say, well, that's not true. Meaning that I didn't have all A, B, C, D, E, and F, and G, and H in line. I missed C, for instance. And Joe was saying to his nerdy friends, Boddie is not a techie. He's an idea guy. And idea guys win elections. So I always figure I could find somebody who can give me details. I can hire a guy to explain it to me. And so that has been my approach generally. I intuitively know stuff. But when it comes down to saying, well, if you look at this graph, and this graph shows that there is an increase here, but against the inflation rate of so and so, and I was the first black banker in the history of Rochester, New York. I was hired in 1962 as the first black guy to ever be able to loan money. And that stuff was cool, but I didn't get too heavily into the credit part of it. I was more so, you need a loan, brother? Let me see your stuff. Fill out this form. I got you. I got a loaning authority of 15 grand unsecured, and I like you. Give me some love. Here, boom. See you in 90 days.
So I think like us, don't get concerned about the dips. We have a lot of people that buy, and maybe they lose 25% off the bat, and they get very nervous as if they've made the wrong decision.
Because they're looking at it as a stock investment. Or a reverse bond investment. You can't use that standard as your determiner, because this almost goes back to what I was saying about life insurance. When you sell whole life, as we did at New York Life, we sell term too, but people saying don't buy whole life because you're wasting the investment. Well, I'm not selling you this life insurance as an investment. I'm selling you this life insurance that if you die, your family got some money. Or if you live long enough, the annuity is going to make you have enough money past Social Security. Well, it's a poor investment. I said, I never said it was an investment. So they keep going back to that. I poo-poo that.
I think another thing that you struck on is that this is, a lot of the times people think that economics is really complex, but there's a level of simplicity to it. So, we look at the Federal Reserve System and how our monetary system exists, but in reality, if you can look at gold and silver, and it's really simple. There's only so much of it. It's a valued item, and people have security in that.
And I trust Ron Paul. Somebody says, well, what about ask Ron, don't ask me. I trust him. And I trust Ed Griffin, because Ed's a good friend.
Oh, yeah, G.A. Griffin knows. He's been in education.
Ed and I did an offshore conference back in '99. Didn't know each other when I got on the plane at LAX. We met on the plane flying to Australia. And by the time we got there, we're arguing like cats and dogs. And we were there 5 nights in the Corn Cove Resort off the coast of Brisbane, off the coast of Gold Coast. It looked like Newport Beach to me. And Ed Griffin became a libertarian after a week with me.
What was he before?
He was a conservative.
Ooh.
He was a conservative. He was the John Birch Society's conservative writer. And I switched him. And he was almost 70 years old at the time. And I don't try to switch people. I just ask people. I do Columbo on a lot of people, too. I'm not too bright. Help me out.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? You say you saw the body over in the corner, and the gun was in the other corner. I don't understand.
Yeah. So, do you have any comments on the on what Ron Paul's been doing? Obviously, as a teacher, but also as the Republican, a possible Republican candidate.
Ron Paul has been consistent and principled over the years that he's been in Congress, and that's why he will never be president of the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
They will not allow him to be the captain of the Titanic as they rearrange the deck chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God.
And Steph Molyneux has said that we wouldn't want somebody like Ron Paul in office while the Titanic was sinking.
Thank
wouldn't
you,
want to put
but they
him
blame us.
You wouldn't want to put him in after
That's
we already
right.
hit the iceberg.
They'll
This
blame
system
us.
was flawed before we ever got
Got
to
it. Got it.
What do you see as the future? You've seen a lot of changes. You've been in the Liberty movement for a while now. As far as the youth, what do you see the ideas that are coming out of the youth? Do we have the ideas that are going to sustain this movement, or have we lost track?
I think lost track. The problem with the youth is that most youth are cheering the Wall Street crowd. I mean, I don't even know what
The
Occupy Wall Street
yeah.
crowd. Having no idea of economics. They don't understand basic law, supply, and demand.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being hoodwinked to believe that that's the problem. The problem is in the biggest little whorehouse in the United States, the Capitol building.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see, except for those who are technically savvy in cyberspace, who understand free markets that way. But that's a small percentage of people. I see gloom and doom for your generation, and many of my friends who are your age have looked seriously at moving to China, and I have friends who used to be politically active, who were younger when I was running for U.S. Senate,
Mm-hmm.
who have moved to China years ago, and they're not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And others are going to India because at least they speak English. But between China and India, that's the future while this thing shakes out. And then when it shakes out, it's going to look very much, I believe, like Britain, and that's just an old second tier country, and everything is crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
David Friedman says he's been hearing people talk about hyperinflation or some sort of collapse in the Western world for 40 years now, and says therefore he isn't convinced that it would happen.
Right, I agree.
40 years isn't a long time though.
Right.
So if somebody could have predicted in a 100-year time period that things would collapse, and I think still have had some foresight.
I'm mixed on that one too. I look at what Friedman says because he has a lot more depth of economics than I would ever have. And I trust his word, but on the other hand, for my own salvation and safety, it's got to be some goal and an ability to have my passport not be pulled on me.
Mm-hmm.
I see some traumatic situations occurring in the United States that we have not seen since the War of Northern Aggression in 1860. That, by the way, was not a civil war.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Civil war is when you want to take over a capital.
Right. They didn't want
They
anything.
seceded.
Yeah.
So that whole brainwashing is scary to me too. But I see real issues. I see insurrections. I see the Omnibus Crime Act of 1992 has set up well over 100 detention centers, and I was on top of that when it was happening. And now it's up to almost 300 detention centers. Why in 92 or prior to that under SB 1 would they be even thinking about detention centers in the United States of America? Because they knew damn well what's going to happen with the policies that they have in place and have kept in place.
Mm-hmm.
And people are not going to go for it. So I think I'm glad I'm old.
We have I know the State Department has written documents predicting that we would see food riots, and perhaps this Occupy Wall Street situation is just a prelude. Do you have any ending words for people who maybe are looking at gold and silver as an investment, or haven't quite made their first purchase but have been thinking about it?
I would say if you have any sense at all, you would diversify whatever investment the portfolio you have, and some of that has to be in gold and silver. If not, look at the stock market. Look at the volatility of the stock market and of the dollar. The dollar is gone as far as the world commodity, the world monetary structure. China pulled $3 trillion out in 2007. $3 trillion. So that's the end of the dollar as we know it. So if anybody's smart, the only thing I can look at is gold and silver. That's going to be a hedge against what's inevitably going to happen, and if it doesn't, so what? You got the gold and silver.
Well, Dick, thank you very much for sitting down with us. We've had a great time with you today. This was the Liberty Radio Hour with Liberty Coin and Precious Metals, and this is the Libertopia series. Thank you very much.